we normally say, is a place where people come discover, they shed out, they also learn something new about their own selves. So this is a podcast where we truly believe that something will come out of every conversation, whether it is for you, whether it is for our listeners, whether it is for me myself. I've been learning into this space for such a long time. So, people who are looking at us and hearing us today, I have beautiful Rashi Narang joining for our podcast. She is the founder for a very human-led company called Heads Up for Tails. I am so curious to know about her journey because this is such a passion-led project for her. And thanks Sarah, who came beautifully into Rashi's life, her dog, because of which such a big and a beautiful venture for these super species has been done by you, Rashi. And so I think this was such a needed, what should I say, a realization, a platform where we think beyond ourselves. So welcome, Rashi, and I'm hoping that you're feeling comfortable, you're feeling excited to share your story. I know that so many people have asked you about it, but maybe we'll try to make it a little more human, little more from the heart conversation.
Thank you so much for having me here, Archana. I'm very, very excited to speak with you. You were just telling me about the second act, and I think it's such a lovely concept. And thank you for acknowledging Sarah. There she is, right at the back, always with me. And she continues to be my inspiration even today, along with lots of my other doggies. So very glad to be here.
So I have to tell you that I took my dog to your Heads Up for Tails right across the place that I stay. And when I went and I said, oh my goodness, when can I come here for my grooming? It was that expression. I said, oh my God, what luxury. So I think it's such a beautiful platform. And I think they're totally pampered. I did not get a slot for her, by the way, because we have to pre-book. So I said, okay, let me come back then. So I'm sure that, a lot of people have seen the potential of the place. They've seen the way that probably you're also making space for these lovely people, because it is the comfort, whenever we take anybody to, or when we go to a new place, how we feel. And, our dogs and our cats and, our pets, they need to be even comforted even more because they need to be in safe hands, right? And I'm sure that you're doing that. But tell us your story. Of course, I know that you came from an HR background. And how did the switch happen? What did Sarah do to you to get you to switch?
She basically just tugged really hard on my heartstrings and she said, do something. Because I couldn't find what I wanted for her to live her best life. And I remember going to so many pet stores in not just the city, but in the country, hoping to find something nice for her, a nice toy, good quality treats, a nice bed. And I just mostly came home pretty disappointed. So I realized that there may be other pet parents like myself who wanted more for these furry family members that bring so much joy into our lives. And that's really how we began. Really small, really tiny, just an idea, but always big dreams. Started it, as a one room setup in my parents' basement, which used to flood every single monsoon, but it was really small, really tiny. And it's been quite a roller coaster of a ride when I think back to where we are today.
Yeah, fantastic. But I'm intrigued to ask you because this entrepreneur journey is also very new for a lot of people, and of course myself. So when do you think this trajectory, of like, like making it work for a few years, and then when does it scale up? Is there a formula behind it?
There is no formula, unfortunately. For me, it's taken a very long time because I think we were just so ahead and so early in the market. And the pet industry has and still continues to be small, fragmented, disorganized, and so it's just been a lot of perseverance and grit to hang on for so many years. And I think from 2008 to 2016, it was just um, very slow. But I think I was also I also moved overseas during that time. So I also had to put it in the back burner a little bit. But I think that we spent a lot of that time on building out a lot of India first products, really building the foundation. There was no front end as far as stores were concerned. So we had to build those out. We built out our back end, our supply chain, so many things. Even our customers, we had to build out. I mean, there was no ready market for this. People were not searching for these products. And so it's taken a lot of years of education and awareness. But then, I see other companies that really just strike a chord from the moment that they're born, and they go from 0 to 100 so
Yeah.
quickly. So I think it's so fascinating, and it just depends on what industry you're in, what's the bigger vision that you have, what's the difference you want to make in the world, and it's different for everyone.
But did you have moments where you said, okay, maybe I'm not cut out for it, or should I wrap up, or is it even making sense? Did you have those
Oh,
thoughts?
yes. Gosh, so many times. So
Really?
many.
Okay. All
And I
right.
think everybody does. I think, there's this tiny little voice, which is your gut, which whispers something different to you. But I think you have to be tuned in enough to hear it. And for me, it was just so slow for so long and so frustrating that I didn't even know if it'll ever be different. But yet I knew it would be different at some point. And so I think that's what kept me going, and it still does. I still think that while we have come a long way, there's so much more work that we have to do, and so many more pets that we have to reach, and so many more families that we have to connect with their animals. So yes, that happens all the time. I think no matter what kind of journey you're on.
So then what kept you going? Or what keeps you going?
Uh, I think it's about going back to the why and about going back to purpose. And I know that for a lot of businesses, they when I talk about this, they're like, "But we don't have a purpose. What purpose can you have in selling XYZ or having a service?" But I think that you can always have purpose. It's about really how many, whether it's the teams working for you, whether it's the environment, the communities, there's always a bigger difference to make. And for me, I've always been an animal person, and I think that the plight of the Indian dogs on our roads, and animals in general, really has it used to hurt me growing up. I was very sensitive and tuned into that, and I always wanted to make a difference, especially for dogs, because that's where I see the most amount of human animal conflict. People see a dog and they pick up a stone, and we mostly see streeties on three legs because one is always hurt and they're always limping. And that's so sad because they make for such wonderful companions and such wonderful friends. And I believe that only if we can understand them will we be inclined to save them and work with them. And so we wanted to always work on this, but I wanted a for-profit venture that can feed into this to make a big difference. And I'm so glad that we've come quite a long way, and we've done a lot of work, but there's so much more to do. So yes, it's about going back to your why, and not just the case of the community animals. I feel like even animals that are in our homes, and it's such a privilege, and we're so lucky to have them in our homes, but I don't think that everybody is doing the best that they can for them. I think people need to understand and respect these species so much more for who they are, and what they need in terms of nutrition, grooming, training, lifestyle, health. And we really hope that we can connect more people to their pets, because when that happens, we believe people become kinder, they become more compassionate, they become more empathetic, and they become better people. And I've seen that story 1,000 times over, and it's always so lovely. So I think that why really makes me um, persevere, and it makes me get out of bed in the morning with fire in my belly. And I hope that we can make the impact that we dream of.
Well, it's all over you. That's all I can say. It's in your voice, it's in your tone, it's in the work, it's in the way that you want to go. So I'm so happy to have you because I think the kind of energy that you are bringing in is going to touch a lot of people. They can feel that when you really work with a purpose, when you put your heart and soul into a bigger purpose in life of changing something, which can also enhance somebody else's life, I think you're on the right track. And this is what Second Act believes totally, is that we can all become a chain, we can become a human change or chain of transformation into each other. So very well done, I have to say, and keep on going, Rashi.
Thank you.
So how many dogs do you have personally?
I only have two at the moment.
Like, the way you're talking seems like that it would be at least 100 odd plus
I know
dogs, you know?
that's the dream, to like retire and be on a lovely big farm with dogs and horses and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
other animals that I love to see. So, but right now I have two, Misara and Poppins.
Oh, so sweet. Oh, that's such. I think you should also think of like having a school for naming the dogs, because, like, I think most people, when it comes to naming the dogs, it comes back to like all food items. So I have a brownie at home, and and before that I had a burger at home. So I'm just saying there was always like something to, like, munch and eat and feel yum.
You're right. I can think of Coco and
Yeah.
Snickers, all of these
Oh,
sweet
yeah. So
food
many.
names.
Maybe because they're so yummy and delicious, and you feel okay.
Yes.
This could be my favorite one. Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so you're dealing with a very, very heartfelt kind of a place that you're creating. So I'm sure that every day you're learning something in this, while you're creating. So tell us something about, your learnings in the last so many years from these pets, from these beautiful species who are so forgiving. I mean, they don't have any manners, they don't keep any grudges, they don't like hate you for anything, they just love you. And what has your been, life lessons from there?
Oh gosh, I'm learning both business lessons as well as life lessons from them every day. I think you touched on some, just not holding grudges, having such a big heart. They're always happy to see you. Even if I walk out of my house and come back 5 times a day, they're equally happy to see me.
So
I
true.
mean, that is just phenomenal, just how they have the ability to sense how you're feeling, picking up on your emotions, just really loving so wholeheartedly and not judging you for anything. Really, I think it's that faith that they have in how amazing you are that also pushes you to become better, right? Like, and there's this lovely quote, I'm not sure who it's by, but it's this lovely quote which says, I hope to become the person my dog thinks I am. Oh, who's this little baby?
She came, I think, listening to her story that somebody is mentioning her. Yes, she just walked in
What's
about that. She's a Shih Tzu.
what's her name?
Brownie.
Oh, Brownie. Yes, of course. You just mentioned. Yes,
Sorry,
lovely.
tell me the quote. Yes, he was talking about quote.
Yeah, no, so I was just saying that, also just I on the overall, when I think about even work, just they don't give up. I mean, they want that biscuit and they will make all the possible puppy eyes at you to make sure that they get that biscuit. They don't think before asking for help. They don't think that they're smaller or bigger because they, ask for help. They don't, and they also just go with their gut so much, right? They're listening into their intuition all the time. And I think also a very important lesson is taking the time out to play every day. I think humans forget that, right? So just making sure that okay, they nap and they do whatever else, but they always take the time out to play. And the most important one is just living in the moment. That's the big one for me, that it doesn't matter what's going on in the world, but they are in that moment, every single moment.
So beautiful. I think that is something that's the most important, and you touched upon it so beautifully. Yes, I think that nobody can take away from them. You also wanted to mention a quote you said that comes to you on this one. Do you remember?
Yes, yes, I was mentioning that I wish I could be the person my dog thinks I am. Something like that, right? It's just because they see only good in us, no matter what. So I think that's a sweet one.
So why do you think that we don't learn from them? I mean, what stops us? I mean, why? I mean, we know exactly what we need to do. Sometimes we can see beauty all around us, whether it is in species, creatures, nature. What stops men or humans to not learn from this on an everyday basis?
I think it's about the way that we live our lives at the moment. So rushed, so hurried, constantly distracted, uh, addicted to distraction, actually. So you have to slow down and tune into that vibration that they carry to really connect. I think it's not just them, but like all animals, they just are so beautiful, and they just really, like I said, they're just in that moment. And I think if we just slow down and pause and connect deeper, we can learn so many things, not just from them, but any and every animal out there.
So true. So, Rashi, what does your day look like? I mean, are you always thinking, acting, doing things for the pets, or is there something else that Rashi does?
So many things. No, I have a lot of hobbies. I love reading, I love music. And so at least in the mornings or in the evenings, I'll make sure that I take some time out for that. I really enjoy, meditation, a little bit of exercise or yoga kind of gives me that energy to run my day. Um, and then of course that's more in the morning, and then the day is really quite hectic. It's just one thing after the other from say 10 o'clock to about 6 7 o'clock, after which I consciously slow it down. I have a daughter and I want to be able to spend some time with her, help her with her homework, be there to listen to her and enjoy some little moments in the day with her as well, and with the family, and just enjoy a lovely evening meal or just conversation. So yes, while the day is very, very hectic, I try to make my mornings and evenings a little bit slower so I can also um, get some balance in. And it's taken so many years to try to get that balance in because there's always something being thrown at you. But I think it's so very important.
So, how is this transition happening when you're expanding like the way that you are, and also talking about taking some time out, which I do not know how you do it, but if you're able to, that's very fantastic. But this transition of now sudden expansion of course, I see one of the stores opening, somewhere in the neighborhood pretty quickly, and I'm sure that you're expanding out of Delhi as well to other cities. How are you handling all of this? Is it a big team that you're creating? Is it a lot of infrastructure outside? Somebody is helping you as a consultant? How are you doing it, the whole thing?
So I think what we did, Archana, was we went very slow for the first couple of years, and we really figured out what is it that works for us in terms of store, size, layouts, designs, products, which neighborhoods. We've gone wrong also a couple of times, and now what kind of locations work for us, etc., etc. And then, now that we feel like, okay, we've kind of gotten those answers and we know what we need to do, it's a lot easier to then say, okay, now we kind of have our model that we know is working somewhat. And of course, it constantly needs innovation, upgrades, but we feel confident about rolling out that particular model, and everything is standardized, so it becomes a lot more efficient. And, we know our vendors, they know what we need to do. It becomes a lot faster. But our first couple of stores, even the first 20 stores, were really difficult to build,
Yeah.
and they took very, very long. And yes, nothing without my team. I'm so very grateful to every single person who is taking the time out to be on this journey with us. And they are pushing out so many things and helping us really bring that vision to life. So couldn't do it without them.
So, is there a standard training process that you have put in place, especially when it comes to grooming? Because it is a field where a lot of attention to detail, the way, even the way that you hold a pet, to the way they need to be made comfortable, to way also
Yes.
the whole grooming process. It's a very sensitive topic. So is there a training in place? How do you manage to get the right people? What are you doing behind the scenes?
It's been extremely challenging because we didn't have anywhere to hire from.
Right.
It's not that it's a profession really that's been established in India. There's very few experts who actually are able to do this. So what we do is that we bring in mostly freshers and put them through a 2-3 month training program where they're working with some of us. First, they of course train behind the scenes, learn a lot of the theory, learn a lot of the practical, practice on foam and all the other things, on hair cutting and so
Yeah,
many other things,
sure.
right? And then we put them with senior groomers so that they can see, because it's so very different to learn here's how you should do it versus working with a dog who is upset or anxious. We also train them on dog body language, because we don't encourage the use of muzzles in our stores or in our spas, and that's pretty unheard of, not just in India but even globally. When dogs come into a grooming parlor, mostly people put on a muzzle so that they can work quickly, but we believe that that really stresses the dog out. And so we really work and push our groomers to work with the dogs, understanding body language, understanding the signals that they're giving, and really help them to ease in and make it something that they look forward to. So that is a very difficult process, and it takes a long time, but we want to keep working on it, keep getting better, and not take the easy way out and just put a muzzle and groom the dog.
I wanted to say that thank you for actually being that authentic. Normally if I will ask a company or a person who's behind it to say, hey, tell me, is it challenging? Normally people will say, oh, no, of course not. We are all set. And, this platform is really to bring out all the things that we are facing so that people who are hearing us can also feel that there is a lot which goes behind it. Everything is not picture perfect. What you see is not really, what you need to believe. They say perception is reality, and people perceive because we have just made up our mind that she's very successful now, a lot of funding, there are like billions of stores opening, everything would be all set. But there is a lot which goes behind the scene, and it's a constant process. Like you said, it's not easy training colleagues, making sure that the standards are met, making sure that the purpose that you stand for in an organization, it stands for the way you've actually envisioned it. And so I'm so glad that you're sharing everything so beautifully and so pure. Thanks for that, really.
Thank you. I just want to tell I just want to tell listeners on your comment on picture perfect. I just want to say that nothing's perfect ever. There's a reason why that was coined, and it's so true, because I think it's a constant push that you have to make to keep getting better, but it can never be perfect.
Right, I know. So things don't work out exactly the way that we plan sometimes, and I'm sure that this journey is not easy for you either. So, is there something that you follow, like maybe one quote, one motivation, one book, something comes to you whenever, things are falling apart, and then you say, okay, let me remind myself of this. And what is that then?
I think at different points in my journey, it's been different things. I recently, I think in the last year, there have been times when I've just felt extremely burnt out. And when you're at that point, you feel like I just want to give up. And that's when there's a quote which says, "When you're tired, rest, don't quit." I think that's what comes to me a lot these days, because when you reach that real sort of end point, and it's just too much, and you're like, okay, that's it. But it doesn't have to be that. If you can recognize it, if you can just give yourself a little bit of a breather, slow down for a couple of weeks, and then supercharge again. Because I think that rest and renewal is so very important to performance, productivity, to focus, to bringing your best creative self onto the table every morning. And if you're depleted and exhausted, and you can't possibly do that. And also what I've realized is that you there are cycles that you have to go through. Like when you work intensely for a couple of months, you will go through that cycle of just feeling like, oh gosh, I am so tired. And it's okay to slow down for a couple of weeks then, and then charge right back in. And I think that we don't talk about these things enough. And I feel like you feel alone when you're feeling like depleted and exhausted, and you're like, why is no one else feeling like this? So I think that when you give so much of yourself to something, you have to be able to take the time out to rest and recharge, so that you can continue to do that. Because when you have a big vision, when you have big goals, when you have big dreams, they are going to suck the life out of you. They're going to challenge you every single day in big ways and small ways and giant ways. And you have to be able to have the energy to really overcome each one of them and keep going.
I think what you've touched upon again is so beautiful. Self-love and self-worth and self-recognition. I think these are the three areas we work very deeply on. And I think also that women do it the least, not to categorize, I don't want to bring in feminism here, but at the same time, I think we do not really nourish our souls and ourselves the way that we should. And I think,
Absolutely. I think for most women, they come last on the list. I know that I do for myself so many times, because there's so many things: your home, your family, your children, your parents. And you always, I think working women also have this sense of like a little bit of guilt that they carry, that hey, how do I balance both things? And I think that that's so sad, and we need to be able to shed it off. And we can shed that off with a little bit of support from each other, as well as from the rest of our families. But we must be able to do that to be able to really help each other thrive.
you're absolutely right. So this podcast is about second act. Second act, whatever you can think of this name itself is so powerful. And I always say that it gives me power every morning and challenges me to say, hey, what's your second act? Don't forget. So when you hear this word, what's coming to you? And so how would you describe your second act?
I think, for me, like I mentioned, my first act was to create something that could bring people together with their pets, really build an organization that can reach millions of homes. And I think that my second act is really about how do I use and channel that platform to make a larger difference in the communities that we live in the families that we work with, to our people, to the environment. So I think that everybody should have a second act, something that really gives them that purpose, something that becomes their why, something that encourages them to wake up every morning. And I don't think that it has to be earth-shatteringly big. It could be small. It could be as simple as, how may I add joy to somebody else's life today, or how may I help someone in the simplest way possible. But there's so much that we all have that we can give back to the world, given that we take so much from it. And I think that that could be everybody's second act. So the first act is, okay, you look out for yourself, but your second act is really, how are you giving back? For me, I think that's what's resonating.
So beautiful, just a few days back, I was walking with my husband and I have put that also on LinkedIn, because when I asked him, what's your second act? He said, I'm not ready for my second act yet. I will quit and then I will do. And then I actually had this conversation. I said, we look for only big things in life, right? And I will do, and that will, the next day will never come. And, the small things that make a difference in each other's life, that is something that we need to care about and bang on. And I'm so glad that you think just like that. So nice. Okay, so I have some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm
Okay.
ready.
All right. So, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
And why?
I think I've just, grown up with them in my home ever since I was born. So I feel like I understand a lot more. I absolutely adore cats, but I've never had them in my home. We did have two cats in our office, and they are very, very, like, they are really incredible creatures, which I believe are misunderstood a lot. And I hope to really build more awareness around them. But personally, I feel like I'm more connected to dogs at this point. Maybe that changes, but yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so what advice would you give to yourself 10 years back?
10 years back?
Say 8, 10 years back when you started this journey?
Oh my gosh. Um, oh my gosh. Don't worry about pleasing people,
Hmm, nice.
because I think that, again, as girls and women in India, it's all about like how are you making everybody else happy at the cost of sometimes your own happiness. So I think learning to unpleased, or not worrying about, I mean, not going out of my way to make somebody unhappy, but really, doing what feels right to me in my heart and not worrying so much about what someone else may think about it.
Very nice. And I think you're quite elevated at this young age, I have to say. I'm getting this realization now. So, so I'm glad that you are. Okay, so what is one thing you can't live without?
Dogs.
Okay.
Can't.
So how do you start your day? Like one thing that starts your day.
My dogs, they wake me up morning. That's the morning alarm, their wet nose on my face. That's it.
So sweet. All right. So one thing that you want listeners to take away from this conversation.
um just follow your dreams. It's obviously a hard journey, but I feel too many people give up on their dreams and they postpone them for when everything is perfect, when the kids have grown up, when I have more time, when XYZ is whatever happening, when I have more money. And that time, there's never a perfect time. And I hope that people can have the courage to follow their dreams, because they'll always lead you in a lovely direction. They will challenge the hell out of you, know that, but it'll always be for your good, for your growth, and the world needs it.
And the last one, entrepreneurship or corporate life?
Oh gosh, entrepreneur.
So the luxury of corporate life you don't want to go back to?
I mean, look, the paycheck coming in every month is amazing. On the entrepreneurial journey, you don't have that for a long time. Sometimes you don't know if you're going to make it onto the other side, or you start really small and you're taking a big risk. But the learning that comes with it, all that it throws at you, the way that it challenges you, the way that it grows you, I think it's just incredible. And it's just, I don't think that you can place any value on that journey.
So thank you so much, Rashi. I cannot tell you that how beautiful this conversation went. We have been trying to contact each other for a long time, and I know that you've been super busy, down with COVID, shifting of your house, so many things. Yeah, I'm in that trajectory of like knowing exactly what's happening, and then expansion of your stores. So you're doing great. You're a beautiful person doing a beautiful cause, creating a beautiful life for so many. And I cannot just applaud you enough for that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you for taking the time out and the patience, to wait for the last couple of weeks to really have this conversation. And more than that, thank you for giving people a chance to tell their real stories and inspiring, hopefully, more people to have a second act. It goes such a long way. And so I've really enjoyed chatting with you, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, my dear. And we will meet again soon.
Yes, take care.